Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ful-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me this week for our preview to the Leicester game on Saturday are two of my co-hosts. AJ, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
And Mozza, how you doing, buddy?
Semi-ecstatic.
Semi-ecstatic.
I
Right.
love when Jack's got a semi.
Yeah. It's when he's fully ecstatic we have to worry. Obviously, we're here to talk about the Leicester game on Saturday. For those of you who have just watched our West Ham review, where we were quite negative about the result, we're going to try our very best to act like this is a new day and be completely positive about this game coming on Saturday. However, Fulham are playing a team in the bottom three, so it's going to be hard because we all know what's coming. But hey, let's talk about it. AJ, mate, we'll come to you. Start this previews how we always start these previews. Expecting lineup for Saturday. Are there any changes you want to see from that West Ham result, that West Ham game coming into start on Saturday against Leicester?
Paul Pogba. Kidding. No, we were just discussing prior to the recording that Andreas Pereira has commented on a tweet of which player he would love for his club to sign, and he quote tweeted Paul Pogba with a couple of love hearts. So there's that in the rumour mill, though I don't think we'd have him ready for the Leicester game, unfortunately. Players I'd like to see start. I think Kenny deserves to get back into the fold, and I think Josh King deserves a start at this point because our other two midfielders, including Andreas himself, are bloody woeful, at least on their current form, if I'm going to put a positive spin on it. Sessegnon, maybe. He had a man of the match performance a couple of weeks ago. Well, it'll be a couple of weeks once we get to the game. Although Iwobi scored 2 goals in the last game, so positive spins. Who does he come in for? Iwobi in the 8 could be an option. Sessegnon out on the left-hand side, attack the box, be dangerous. Diop probably deserves a start since Anderson still thinks he's in that back 5 and has completely lost the will to play football. Yeah, I think that's it. I'd be happy with those changes.
Well, there is some good news coming out of Marco's pre-game press conference today, and that is that it looks like we may well have Sander Berge back for the game on Saturday.
Good news.
We have been crying out. We have been crying out for that Lukic Berge axis for weeks, and it looks like we may well have it back on Saturday. Whether or not it's
What's
too
a
soon
burger
for
without
him to
this?
start, we don't know. But I've been desperate to see Lukic and Berge back on the pitch together because it's a beautiful sight when we do see it. Mozza, we were frustrated, even though we did win the reverse fixture against Leicester earlier on in the season. I was actually quite impressed with how resilient Leicester were by the end of the game, even though the first half of that game was yet another one of those stories where we completely dominated the game and just couldn't score a goal. Going into the game on Saturday, obviously Leicester being in the bottom 3, 6 losses in a row. We've lost 2 in 10. What are you expecting from us on Saturday? What are you expecting from this game? I'm so desperately trying not to make any Robin Hood sort of comments, but I'm going to be the first to do it. Are you expecting Marco and his merry men on Saturday, or are you sort of hoping for, a bit more from the game?
You've nicked all my lines and jokes that I was going to do, but yeah, you didn't get a laugh from me or AJ, so maybe you saved me on that one. I'll be your Maid Marian, shall I? And you be my Robin Hood.
Way.
Forget that. Anyway. I knew I shouldn't have tried. What am I expecting? Is that
where the semi came from?
Behave. What am I expecting? What do I want to expect, or what do I truly expect? I truly expect us to lose, to be honest. I think for me, it just goes back to the personnel and lineup. You asked AJ earlier. I wouldn't disagree too much with what he said. I would love to have Sander Berge back and that pairing with Lukic. The access, as you called it, in that midfield, we're dying for it. ESR, don't want him to start. I would, and I'll shock you guys now. Can we have Tom Kearney start over him at the very least? Yeah, I would love Josh King to start. If not, Josh King to get some game time. As always, like I've been saying, like we've all been saying for a long time, again, in all these previews, I want some attack, I want some end product. That said, I am feeling not too optimistic about the scoreline. We'll get to predictions later, but yeah, I'm neither here or there. I'm quite on the fence about it. My heart says one thing, my head says the other.
Oh, to be a Fulham fan, eh? That is literally,
Indeed.
that is the life of a Fulham fan. AJ, I'm going to ask you the same question, mate, because, we've had this semi-joke going on for, 3-4 months now about the Robin Hood factor
The
at Fulham.
semi's been around that long?
we joked a couple of weeks ago about we wanted Marco and his Merrymen to die, and they just haven't.
No. Well, if it's any consolation, we're up near Sherwood Forest this time around, so maybe this might be a home game for the Merrymen. Yeah, Leicester has Jamie Vardy scoring 5 all over it, doesn't it? What can I say about the Merrymen? Never have we ever struck twice in a row? Maybe. Like, this is the first opportunity we've had for the Merrymen to go back to back. Let's hopefully be very Fulhamish, and when everyone's expecting us to be stupid, we actually don't be. Yeah, that's as much as I can really hope for. Don't be stupid.
Don't be stupid. Yeah, I think obviously hitting up from the game against West Ham on Tuesday night, where we made, I would say, 1 too many mistakes, but it's probably 7 too many mistakes in the game. 2 being so woeful that obviously we then conceded from it. And whether you want to blame Leno, Andreas Pereira, whoever you want to blame for that, I think we need to, as I said at the end of the recording on Tuesday, or end of the recording of the game for Tuesday, when we're doing our review, we need to put it behind us and just move on and try sort of attack this game completely differently. Leicester are a completely different outfit than West Ham are. They don't play the same style of football as West Ham do. They don't have the quality in their squad that West Ham do. In saying that, that's not any disrespect to Leicester and their squad. They do still have some very dangerous players that play in that team, and they do have a few players that I quite admire and like watching, and they fully deserve their spot in the Premier League this year. Whether or not they are, performing at that level is another thing said and done. The one thing I will say to them, if you're a Leicester fan watching, you've not won in 6. Fulham are coming on Saturday. Put your house on it, because that's what we do. And I know many football clubs, many football fans will say that, but no football club gives presents like Fulham give presents. Every day is Christmas when you're playing Fulham. If you've got a striker who hasn't scored, haven't won in so long, just look to play Fulham, and all your sins will be corrected. Mozza, we joked about the game on Tuesday night and how frustrated we were watching it and going forward. You spoke then about wanting to see us score some goals and going forward. Would you be adverse to seeing Rodrigo Muniz come into this game rather than Raul Jimenez, considering that we've probably got harder games coming up in the next couple of weeks that Jimenez could probably use? Or do you think that maybe we should deploy and think about having both of them on the pitch at the same time, like we did see very briefly a couple of weeks ago?
Oh, cool. You've got a bit of a can of worms there. I personally would stick with Raul Jimenez to start. Now, you've just referred back to the Ipswich game, I do believe, where we ended up with Muniz and Raul at the same time. Look how that ended. However, that game as well, was that the first time we said we saw Marco make half-time subs?
Yes.
I would still stick with one up front, and in true Marco traditional fashion, if nothing's happened around, if it's still 0-0, say 60 minutes, Marco usually waits till about 70, then I would think about bringing Muniz on. It's worked before. You could argue why change a winning formula. It doesn't work every time, but that would be the tactic I would want to see. I still wonder if that was out of desperation. We did speak about it on the previous pod, the like his thinking behind bringing both of them on at the same time when we faced Ipswich. I'm not adverse to it, but I wouldn't clutch at straws in that sense just yet, and that's how I view it.
Yeah, no, I completely understand where you're coming from. Really, when we look at it, let's look at this Leicester squad for the game on Saturday. I'm literally just looking at their squad that played against Crystal Palace during the week, and all of us who support Fulham want to see, but don't really want to see Bobby Decordova-Reid playing for them on Saturday, because we all love him, and we all know his qualities. I know he's not quite getting the game time at Leicester at the moment, but we look at the Leicester team that went into the game on Tuesday, and they started, with James Justin, Faust, Christensen, and Vestergaard in defence. Now, that's a very attackable defence. If I look at it, I think that's a defence that we can very much get at. They tend to make mistakes, as we saw when they played at the Cottage. Vestergaard, I know more from an away days video than I do as watching him play football. Um, you know, Going into the game, AJ, we'll look at that Leicester defence if they do play a similar defence going into the game on Saturday. Would you think that's an offence that we can get up and get into as much as I seem to think we do?
Didn't recognize many of the names you said, so yeah, absolutely. I'd say that we're in a good position to attack that sort of defence, and where we fall short will inevitably be the our final product. But I think it's a very good game for the likes of Iwobi, Wilson, Robinson, players that are probably most direct and attacking options, and ones that are quite tidy with the ball to feet. I personally would prefer to see the likes of Jimenez, because he's got a much closer ball control than Muniz does. Muniz is very good at winning aerial battles, but when it comes ball to feet or ball to chest, they have a habit of bouncing off of him. Thankfully, he's strong enough and quick enough to get them back most of the time, but it doesn't put him in a good position to play 1-2s or ping the ball over on the first touch and stuff like that. So I think Jimenez is probably going to need to be a must in a game where we're going to have to break down a solid defensive unit. You can say that in terms of individual players, Leicester probably are, well, it's right there, average. But what they'll do is they'll group together two banks of four, make it very difficult for us to play between the lines. And that's where we'll get unfolded if we don't have someone creative enough to break those. In saying that, I think our best options, and I didn't mention it because I didn't think about it at the time, would be actually dropping Bassi for Cuenca, because he's got the ability to play those balls along the floor from centre back into the striker or the forward players, completely obliterating the midfield, which we don't seem to have with the Bassi Anderson partnership. I think it'd be a little bit unfair because of Bassi's defensive qualities and the fact that he hasn't really put a foot wrong to drop him. But Cuenca's passing options, very, very good for games like this where we're going to need to break down a defence.
Yeah, no, I understand. Actually, it's probably not a bad shout to see Cuenca come in, because I know from talking in our group chat that we were all very impressed with the performance that we saw from him in the FA Cup. And I'll be interested to see how he would fare in the Premier League. My only concern is naturally the only real talking point when you look at this when you look at this Leicester team, is they still have Benjamin Button up front. If Benjamin Button's, magic was the fact he's fueled by Red Bull and Pro Plus, and Jamie Vardy, and I respect Jamie Vardy more than I put off. And I know I joke about him being fueled by Red Bull and Pro Plus. He's a man who's brought himself up from non-league, and he's pushed himself, and he's got into professional football late in his career, and he's still going now. At the ripe old age he is, he's still fast, he's still pacey, he's still doing the business for them up front. There may be some arguments whether or not he is completely the Premier League quality that they need still, but I still respect him for what he is, and how are we going to handle him on Saturday is a question for pretty much all of us, and we look at it and we have to, hope that we've got a plan to deal with him. The player that I'm actually really worried about for Saturday is Mabavidi. I've seen him play 3 or 4 times in this season, and I've been impressed with him every time I've seen him play. He can score, and he seems to play that backup with Jamie Vardy quite well, that he knows where to be behind him to pick up where Jamie's just good at running at people and absolutely, terrorising defences and going through it. Lads, we'll finish our preview shows how we always finish our preview shows, and we'll get a player to watch from both teams and a scoreline prediction. Mozza, I'm going to start with you, buddy. Give me a player to watch from both teams and a scoreline prediction for Saturday, please.
It's going to sound really boring. Player to watch for Leicester will be Vardy for me. I just think he's going to be our biggest threat, especially given the struggles we've had in defence. I say recently, but for a while. For us, tough one. I think Jimenez is going to have a good game. Like, he's been on form a fair bit, but he doesn't seem to have scored goals in a direct sense. And what I mean by that is the last fair few have been penalties. Obviously, yeah, he did all right against Watford, but you're playing Watford in the cup game. But he'll be my one for Fulham anyway, to try and avoid giving too much of a long answer. With that said, I've got this scoreline in my head of 0-0. But I think AJ said earlier, don't think we're going to keep a clean sheet. So I'm going to say 1-0 Leicester, and I'm really sorry.
Mozza, you've been a Fulham fan too long, mate. You've been a Fulham fan for way, way too long.
Yeah.
AJ, what about yourself, buddy? Give us a player to watch on both teams and a scoreline prediction, please.
If he's playing, then it'll be Bobby Decordova-Reid. If he's not playing, it'll be Buonanotte, the sort of player that ghosts every other time apart from when they're playing Fulham. Fulham player to watch, it will be whoever occupies our midfield. So I can't really give you a name because my hopes say Kenny King. My expectations say ESR Andreas, and my expectations drive me to want to watch them for all of the wrong reasons. Scoreline prediction, I went bold last week, and fuck me, did that bite me in the arse. So I'm going to go the complete opposite and say 4-0 Leicester. Let's hope I'm very wrong, like I was very wrong last week.
Okay, well, the scoreline predictions are a bit of a shocker, but hey, we'll go with that. For me, I was chatting to a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, who's a Leicester fan today, about the game on Saturday, and he was really looking forward to it. And I don't know how anyone who supports the team who's lost 6 in a row would look forward to a game as much as he seemed to have been. But we'll see. Looking at that Leicester squad and the Leicester team that play, Jamie Vardy's the natural one. We all say it. Mavrovini, I've said, obviously, has been impressed me every time I've seen him play this season. If there was a player of Leicester go down that you saw any teams coming in for, he wouldn't be one that I'd be shocked to see people sort of scrambling over. Weirdly for me, the Leicester player that I'm actually gonna say we need to watch out for on Saturday is Harry Winks. Because I think, like AJ said, the centre of the park, the middle of the pitch is going to be really, really important. And if Harry Winks has one of those games where he plays really well and he can control games, he can really control the middle of the park really, really well. Whoever plays in that position, be it Sander Berge, be it Andreas Pereira, be it whoever plays in that second position in midfield, it's got a real big job of making sure that Harry Winks is kept quiet on Saturday, because he can pull the strings for Leicester. And he is a good player, and we've seen him score against Fulham many, many times before. It's one of those that will come back and bite us. In terms of Fulham players to watch, actually, I'm gonna be really boring, and I'm gonna say Bernardo is going to be the Fulham player to watch in this game.
Interesting.
I think he needs to have a reaction to the mistakes he made at West Ham on Tuesday night. He's probably going to have a good game in order to keep Leicester from scoring. You know, they are tricky going forward. They can score a goal. Yes, we know they can see the goal, but they can be quite tricky going forward. And I think he's probably going to have to do some making up for the mistakes he made on Tuesday. And as much as we said about it that he had credit in the bank about other games, I want to see a reaction. I want to see him control that defense a bit better than he has been. I want to see a lot more talking amongst that defense, and he's key to that as the goalkeeper. You know, as the goalkeeper, you are meant to be in command of that defense, and I want to see a reaction by all of the defensive unit from Tuesday night, but especially from him. Scoreline prediction for me, you know, weirdly, I am quite confident going into this game. You know, I want to see Fulham get back to winning ways. I want to see Fulham win some more away games. Our podcast mate Drew is actually at the game on Saturday, so let's hope for his sake that we get a win and an away win for him, because he's had a bit of bad luck with the away games he's chose to go to this season. But I'm going to go with a 3-1 Fulham win. I just got a sneaky feeling we won't keep a clean sheet, as much as I want Leno to play well. But I want to see us score some goals. That's it really for this podcast. Thanks very much, guys, for joining me for this Leicester preview. We'll be back on Monday for our review of this game. I did just want to give a quick shout out though to everyone who's watching this. We have our own Ful-on merchandise store, which is available on Shopify. We'll put the link to the description in this episode. We are giving away one of our Muniz Brazil t-shirts, a brand new t-shirt that's in our store this month. All you need to do in order to win the t-shirt is be subscribed to the channel and to comment on our Twitter post that we put out about it, which is pinned to our account. That'll be at the top with your favourite Muniz moment since he's been at Fulham. And that is all you have to do in order to try win that shirt. If you are a subscriber to the channel, please do sort of share it out with your mates. We are slowly growing and we're getting there in terms of sort of getting our following up, but it would be nice if we could reach some more Fulham fans. Other than that, if you're going to the game on Saturday, safe journeys. Let's hope for a good reaction from the loss at West Ham on Tuesday, and hopefully come back with Marco's merry men fully put to dead by Sherwood Forest, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much, AJ. Thank you very much, Mozza, for joining me. Come on, you Whites, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.